Welcome to the Better Podcast with me, Jen Beard. Today I am joined by mother and daughter duo Denise and Courtney Jenner. What a treat I have for you today. These two have worked together now for over a decade, but you will hear the differences in how they are as people, but the way that they have brought those differences together to make a very powerful real estate combo. Not only that, but they work in lifestyle real estate in a small community, have been serving that community for many, many years. Wow, there is a lot more fuel in the tank for these two, so enjoy this conversation. Denise and Courtney Jenner, not that Courtney Jenner, the other one. Welcome to the Better Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm pumped for this conversation.
Thank you for inviting us.
No worries. Hey, look, let's start at the beginning. Denise, how did you end up in real estate? What's your background? How did you end up choosing this as a career?
Bit of an interesting one. I had started out earlier in life as a teacher, did that for 3 years and got a bit bored, thought I'd have a bit of a change, moved on and ended up in sales and marketing. Stu Wilson once said to me, I want you to join my sales force. I said, oh, Stu, I couldn't sell anything. And he said, you join me. I looked at who he employed and then thought, I can work for Stu. So that's how I got into sales and marketing in the first instance. Had 12 years in that industry and ended up in senior management, then had a family and had a few years out of the workforce. Got a bit bored when the twins were 4. We've got 4 daughters, retrained for teaching, and then thought, oh, I can't sit in a classroom with all these kids. I've got a crazy house at home. I'd always had a passion for real estate, did my papers and thought, whoa, let's give this a go. So joined a very small team in Clevedon. It was a privately owned operation. And the first week I said to the owner, right, I'm going to move into lifestyle sales and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And he looked at me and said, oh, that's a bit tough. I think you might have to rethink that. I thought, I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
And that's where it started. And I had 4 young children. The twins were 5 and worked as and when I could in those earlier days, but just got addicted. I'd been in a senior management position. I knew what it was like to run a sales force. I just wanted to be in charge because I had a lot going on at home. We were on a 250-acre farm. I had 4 young children. It was a bit of a nightmare. The real estate was my time out.
I'm just going to take you way back to this point where somebody says to you, oh, I don't think you can do that. You went, watch me. I love that because there's 2 types of people in this world, right? There are people who would take that and go, oh, shit, actually, maybe I can't. Maybe I've set my sights too high. And other people like you that say, oh, hang on a second, you don't make the rules for me, mate. I'm getting after this. That says a hell of a lot about you. Okay, so Courtney, you were a baby when mum started in this game. So you grew up in a real estate household.
Yes.
It's always been a part of your life.
It has, yes.
So what possessed you to become involved yourself?
Growing up, my sisters and I actually all had a pact together that we would never join real estate. We did not like the fact that mum was never home. I finished school, went to uni for 1 year. I was studying criminology and psychology. I wanted to actually be a detective. And then I had 5 months off between years 1 and 2 at university. Denise had made some changes to her business plan. She needed a PA. I needed a summer job. So I joined her business temporarily until she found somebody new. And long story short, never went back to uni and I've never left. 12 years later, I'm still here. So I was a PA for 1 year. And then when I decided to actually take a year out of uni, that was my original idea, Denise said, if you're going to stay with me, you're going to do your license, you're not going to have an easy ride, put the pressure on a little bit, and I absolutely loved it.
You then decide, right, you're all in. How'd your sisters feel about this and you breaking the pact?
To be completely honest, they struggled a little bit. I think there was a sense of I was going to be working with our mum full time, and I think that ruffled some feathers a little bit. However, they're so supportive, and now that I've been in it for so long and they've realised this is my career and this is what I'm going to be continuing, they're extremely supportive of that.
So how long have you guys been working together now?
12 years.
Amazing. I am really interested in understanding how the relationship evolves when you come together, I guess both as mother and daughter, but also, as partners in a business. I imagine that the way you work, who you are, and the nature of the relationship is really different today than it was even 5 years ago. Denise, maybe we'll start with you. Tell me about the beginning.
It was pretty easy, Jen. A job had to be done. It would have been my business for a number of years, and Courtney was fulfilling a gap in that initial period. I'd continued to run the business with Courtney being the PA. Jobs had to be done. She was no longer the daughter when we were in a working environment. It was game on. You come to work, we do the job. This is how it is. I'm a bit stroppy. I'm a bit bossy, probably, some people might say.
No way.
Bit direct. And so Courtney just fulfilled the PA lineup. She was a PA. She would not so much challenge. I think back in the early days, she just did the job and did it well. And because I could trust her to a certain extent, if I gave her an instruction or there was a task to be completed, she just did it, and that was it. I suppose I barrel on because I'd been in my zone and doing it for a number of years, that she just fitted in. I think back in the early days, that sort of mother and daughter relationship was quite separate in regards to the work environment and the home environment.
The piece about trust too is such an important piece. When you come together as a partnership and you already know each other really well, sometimes you see this in, husbands and wives who end up working together as well. You know each other so well that the trust is embedded, and it means that you both act with a level of openness and integrity that sets the relationship up really, really well. So tell me, Courtney, about the learning curve for you and having mum in the background while you're having this massive learning curve.
Naturally, at the start, I definitely sort of took the back foot a little bit, and because Denise had the experience and the reputation that she had, naturally, as much as I could do things, I would step back and let her take over, take the lead. However, now that we've been working together for so long, that definitely is not the case. My confidence has built, and I know that I've got it. I know that I can do it. So now it's we're more even rather than me just letting Denise front foot everything.
So tell me about the dynamic now.
We say we sort of went from protective to partners in terms of Denise originally she would protect me and she would front foot things to ensure it was being done the right way. However, now I'm at a point where we're very even. We split our jobs. It's not we both have to be on the same listing at the same open homes at the same time. Now we divvy things up. I'm at some properties, Denise front foots the other properties, and we're very much working evenly.
And how do you make sure that your calendars are synced or that you know what's happening on each of these properties? What's your routine or way of managing that?
Communication. I think communication is the biggest thing for us, and because we are mother and daughter, our communication is probably a lot more assertive, direct than a lot of other business partners would be. But definitely we talk to each other first thing in the morning. We talk to each other last at night, constantly in communication, knowing what's going on, who's doing what, where we're at, so that we're both in line.
And this must be amazing for you too, Denise, to see your daughter come through and to be able to now know that she's totally got it. What does it give you?
It gives me the warm fuzzies. I knew she had it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, she had it. She just didn't know she had it. At that point, she wasn't as confident as she is now. And I suppose me being the sort of person I am, I just get in and do the business. I'm always work on 24/7, and everything in life sort of fits around that. Watching Courtney grow, we'd go to meetings and I'd think, oh, go you, and I'd come away. And Raymond was our manager and he could see it. He saw the ability in Courtney right from the start. And I suppose she has an inner strength. She's very quick-minded. She's quick thinking. She has an incredible level of communication, but she's also caring and compassionate. So she brought a lot of variables to the business that I probably hadn't focused on previously because I was just doing it my way. And that was cool. But watching her grow in the confidence and get it. I saw it, others saw it around her, but Courtney would still take the back step a little bit. And we're in a community that we've lived in for 24 years. And that whole time I've been selling real estate. So, my name was top of mind right through the community. And I think Courtney very much felt in the shadow a little bit, or, it's mum's business, it's Denise's business. And then we got to a point and it changed. And now it's, we'll go places. Oh, you work with your mum, or we'll be working on a potential listing, and the clients know I'm going away. So it's okay, Denise, you go, you have fun. We want Courtney front-footing this. And it's beautiful. I just love it because it's really neat. And when it's your daughter, to see them succeed in a way, that whole loving family thing comes into play. It's been very special.
When you and I have talked in the past, we've talked about your ambition. Tell me about the role that ambition has played in your career and how that works for you guys now.
I am who I am. I've got to be in the game and I've got to be winning the game, not on the sideline. That's just me. The kids, when Courtney made the comment about growing up in a house with a real estate family, it was probably very tough. Because I don't do things in halves. And if I'm going to work 7 days a week, it's going to be worthwhile. So for me, it's non-negotiable. We're going to go out there and we're going to perform at a certain level and we're going to achieve the goals we want and we're going to tick those boxes. Courtney knows who I am because she's my daughter. Yeah. She knows what drives me. If I play a game, unfortunately, I've got to be on the winning team. And so she sees that. So she has blended. I think that's not normally who she is naturally. She's far more caring and compassionate and play the game as part of the team and be happy to be part of the team. But I think what it has done is she knows how ambitious I am and she's blended into that. And so collectively now we plan the goals together. We identify what we want to achieve and how we are going to achieve it. And that ambition just is actually joined.
Ambition for the partnership now, as opposed to, initially it's your ambition and you're the PA supporting mum's ambition. And now actually it's this sort of collective, how are we going to move this forward? And I know that you've got pretty high expectations. So Courtney, interested to hear your take on ambition and what that means in your life, like almost outside of the relationship with mum.
We operate in a very close-knit community and we can't afford to get it wrong. So everything we do, our standards, we have to deliver a level of service that is going to uphold our reputation in the area. Also, in real estate, you are in control of your income and what that is then going to enable you to do or not enable you to do. And so I think a lot of my ambition stems from pushing myself and ensuring that we are working hard, we are getting the results to be able to live the life that we want, to be able to live and achieve the goals that we've set ourselves. I know I've set some pretty big life goals that I'm determined to achieve, and I think that definitely stems from Denise's high expectations, but it's good. That's where we need to be ambitious. We need to be energetic. We need to, like I said, ensure our level of standard and service is upholding our reputation so that we continue to strive and achieve our goals.
It's interesting how you have you've connected your personal ambition to the quality of the service that you deliver, right? And I think that you separate those two things at your peril. I love what you said about thinking about the life that you want to live. It's just not about piles of money, right? Actually, the money is something that enables you to have choices and options and, have the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, whatever that might be. I love that you're doing that. So let's talk about that client expectation then, because I also think those two things are inextricably linked.
Yes.
If you do the right thing by your clients, you're going to get them again. You're going to get them talking to their friends about you. And therefore, you're going to have some longevity in terms of earning potential in this business. The testimonials, ladies, I mean, what on earth? They're amazing. You get the best testimonials I've ever seen. What are you doing differently? What is particularly special about the way that you engage with your clients?
When you've lived in a community, we moved back to Auckland from Mount Maunganui, and I started real estate right from the start. We had 4 children at the local school. You're part of the community. So we were involved in the school activities. We were all the extracurricular, the sporting and whatever. We were very, very heavily embedded in that community involvement, etc. And because of that, you're on show. Your work ethic, your support, all of those variables come into play. And that sets a scene in the community. That sets the scene. Then people, when they come to sell their house, they want Denise involved. They looked at the level of support and the commitment and the work ethic that went into the family dynamic and the working within the community. People just naturally gravitated towards me, us, because they saw something that was going to make a difference when it came to their house sale. They wanted that level of service. They saw what makes a difference.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
That comes
right?
into play.
That's the beauty of sponsorship in our industry as well. I'm sure you will agree with me when I say that I think that it is absolutely the right thing to do for businesses like ours that do very well out of communities to give back. And we do in spades, and as do real estate agents across the country. But it is absolutely also a way for people to get to know you when they are not thinking about buying and selling properties, because we're not all in the business of this. Like every 10 years, actually, the last stats I saw was that on average, New Zealanders turn over their homes every 10 years. So most of the time, they don't care that you're in real estate, but they can get to know you. And in the conversations that you're having with them, they can get to know that you know about real estate. And that's really important. Do you think that's particularly important in the kind of community and like in a more rural community? Is lifestyle really that different? Are these communities really different? When your manager all those years ago said, getting into lifestyle is hard, was he right? What's hard or different about it?
When I look back, Jen, I look at some of the other agents in the office. They'd been there for some time. They were very comfortable, very relaxed. I was there for my reasons, and I was starting out in the industry, and I had high expectations and high goals. And I had come from a background of I go in and I achieve what I want to achieve. I was a different fit. They actually didn't know whether I was going to fit in with the office. He questioned whether I was too much for the office.
Too ambitious for the office.
100%.
If anybody's listening and they're too ambitious for their office, you should come on over to Bayleys. We'll have you.
However, it makes a difference, because I knew what mattered to me, and then I knew then what was going to matter to other people. And you want to make a difference. It does matter. Everybody, every time you walk out you drive out your drive, you are there. You are part of that community. And I suppose our philosophy is everything matters. I think it does make a difference. They see you in the dairy. You can take your dog for a walk. You are just connecting with your community all the time. So you do have to do it well. You do have to exceed their expectations, because otherwise you don't get their business. You don't get future business. Everybody knows everybody, and that's a critical thing. So we are always there to do right.
Courtney, tell me a bit about how that ethos of everything matters plays out when you've got a listing and you're going through a process. What does that mean to you?
We strive for the best. We want to be one of the best agents in our area, and that is one of our main priorities and focus during the process. A lot of our business as well does come from repeat business or referrals, so we need to ensure we are maintaining the same level of service for every property that we list. If somebody's referred us to their friend after they've had an amazing experience, we need to ensure that the friend also has an amazing experience. So we can't afford to drop the ball or deliver a different standard than what we do. So we ensure that we maintain that same standard of service.
Do you have processes or like ways in which you make sure that happens? Is it an ethos or is it a process?
Probably both, but I'd say a process. Our processes and our systems that we've got in place are very probably over the top, but in a good way. We have a PA who's been with us for 10 years. She runs our business, runs everything behind the scenes for us. On a Monday, we meet with her. She's got an agenda. We have everything that we need to do listed on that, and who needs to be spoken to, etc. And every day she's our gatekeeper. She checks that we're on check. And I think that is important in terms of ensuring that we don't drop the ball or we don't miss something or leave something off. And Carolyn's always checking, always managing us to make sure that we're doing everything as we normally would, especially if we get busy. Sometimes it's easy to let the small jobs drop off, but those small jobs for us could be big deals for our vendors. So yeah, I'd say probably more in process.
Is there anything particularly special that you think that you do that really makes a difference for your clients?
I suppose I'm a bit old school and I write notes for everything. It doesn't matter whether I go to a Bayleys training session or a sales meeting or any form of industry training, I just write notes. The information that I gather from that note-taking then becomes part of our business. And what that does is it ensures our clients are fully informed. They're right up on the play at any given time. What's happening out there? What's going on in the community? Who's sold? Where is everything sitting? And what's also happening in Auckland? What's happening in the central city? How the open homes are running? What the numbers are like? Everything filters out.
And also, they expect you to have your finger on the pulse of the real estate market, right? Because this is what you do on the daily. There's no longer any kind of excuse for not knowing exactly what's going on, right?
We have to be experts. We have to be seen. We have to do things differently to stand out. There's a lot of people that will come into our area think, Clevedon, there's not many agents in Clevedon, we'll move into Clevedon. And we're constantly having to make sure we deliver the right level of service to make sure that we are making a difference, because it's making the difference that makes the difference.
Yes. So what's next? What are the next round of goals, or where to from here for you guys?
We're not finished yet, just quietly. So we had a few years where it was a bit lean, not lean. The partnership was still evolving. Now that we've got it right, we're on track. We've got our gatekeeper, CP. She keeps us all in track. We work to as Courtney said, our weekly plan, our weekly figures. That has made a difference. Our gross commission, everything's detailed in that weekly plan. It is what our numbers we have to hit in order to achieve those targets. It's all there weekly.
This is the discipline motivation thing, right? That actually, if you wait to be motivated to make prospecting calls, God forbid, you'll be waiting a hell of a long time, right?
Exactly.
That actually at some point you have to find the discipline, and you've got this weekly thing that, generally gives you the discipline, and actually sometimes when that fails, you just force it yourselves. Yes. I love it. It does kind of feel like there's so much more in the tank for you guys, right? How wrong was that manager when he suggested this was a bit hard and maybe you should lower your sights? It sounds to me like you've got massive years ahead of you, and the level of ambition is really inspiring, ladies. So thank you so much for sharing. I've got one final question for you, and I'm kind of keen for an answer from both of you, unless you have the exact same answer. What is one piece of advice that has truly made you better?
Mine is don't wait for confidence, act on it. That was, I think, my biggest struggle like I said earlier, when I first started, it was that lack of confidence. Raymond told me I knew what I was doing. Everybody could see it except for myself. And so I'd naturally take a step back and let Denise lead. And now I'm in a very different position. I challenge Denise. I tell her that she's wrong regularly. But I've changed my mindset and realised that I was the only one holding myself back.
Fabulous. How about you, Denise?
Mine was an up-and-comings from one of the daughters. She'd spent a couple of weeks with me over the Christmas period. She was back staying home from uni, and she was in the car with me. We had a number of events to do, and I had calls and appointments in between. And she was in the car and I was taking a call, and I obviously triaged that purchaser very quickly, realised there wasn't going to come to anything, hung up, carried on, and she looked at me and she said, "What happened to the kind, Denise?" I looked at her and I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I just didn't recognise who you were." And I stopped for a second and thought, okay. And then I thought about it. And she said, "You've forgotten what the essence of what you do." She said, "You've always been the person who is, operates from the kind Denise." So I thought about it and I thought, okay, she's probably quite right. I'd got into that zone of, is this important? Is this going to matter? And so I started to think. And she said, "There's one thing you could have changed in that conversation which would have made a difference for that purchaser, Mum." And I thought, okay. And so now everything matters. Every phone call I make, every conversation I have, every relationship we build, I make an effort.
Fantastic.
Very lucky. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I have loved this conversation. It's so cool to see the energy between you and the way that you obviously know each other so well. It's so aspirational in terms of, people who are thinking about pulling a business partner in. So thank you for sharing all of that. I reckon you're going to get a whole heap of emails asking for that weekly spreadsheet that CP does for you. So beware. Yeah. But thank you.
Thanks for inviting us in, Jen. It's been fun.
Thanks for getting all the way to the end of the Better Podcast with me, Jen Beard, and Bayleys. If you know someone who could get value out of this conversation, please share it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to us. See you next time.